Okay, Ethan, we've just been having a discussion about the future of the Game Development Society here, and just looking forward to chat with you.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, everyone got to show off uh, some like game jam projects tonight too, right?
Yes.
Yep, there were a few.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, so cool. Yeah. So I wanted to just take a few minutes to talk a little bit about being a game dev, professionally and things like that, as well as potentially just show a little bit of what um, a few years of experience can look like. Um, but before I jump into any of that, was there anything you wanted me to discuss first, Brother Manley?
Oh, I was just hoping you would introduce yourself, motivate us a little bit, tell us how awesome it is, and then share some of your stuff with us.
Yeah, sweet. Um, so my name is Ethan Stringham. I have been doing game dev stuff for about 8 years now. A lot of it started out just in high school, and I taught myself how to program, specifically in like Godot and Unity. Um, and I made lots of little projects. I've probably made like 50 plus little games, but they're all like pretty, not something I would like put on a resume or anything, but just little experiments here or there that got me learning about game development. But once I got into college, I got a little bit more serious, and I made a couple games with some friends that we posted online. One of them was a pun on the popular game Slay the Spire. We made one called Slay the Spider, um, and it's available on itch.io. But um, and then because of my background in programming, I learned Unreal Engine, which is fortunately a really um, sought after skill right now. And so I was able to work for two-ish years at a company called Space Station Animation. And they use video game technology to create kids cartoons. Um, so let's see. Am I able to share my screen then?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay, sweet. Let me just as an example of some of the stuff I've done. I'll let's see.
So while you're getting things put together, just a quick question for you.
Hmm.
What led you to sort of like start video game development just in general? Was it just like, hey, I like video games, I want to do this for a living?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I actually come from a family of video game developers. So everyone but my mom works in video games, which is kind of funny, I guess. But my dad, he worked for several years for Microsoft and Disney. And then my sisters are artists, so he was more of a programmer, and my sisters were more of artists. And we've just worked at several different companies around Utah over the years. So kind of a little bit of a family thing. Um, I also just really liked games, and I really wanted to understand how they worked when I was younger. So my dad told me like, "Hey, maybe you should look into this as a career." So, um, and I guess before we jump any further, does anyone have any other questions for me?
Um, I've got one more real quick.
Hmm.
When you were making games here at college, I know that you probably understand that college is a very time-consuming sort of thing, and at least a few of the members of the society have expressed some difficulty finding time to just sit down and do anything. Do you have any advice for them as to like how they can just sort of get dug in? Like any ideas?
Yeah, it's really hard, for sure. Like I said, for probably like, I mean, I guess actually there never really was a point in the past 8 years where I didn't, in addition to my regular duties, also have a side project for a game. Even when I was working on game tech professionally, I'd still have a side project as a game. And it can definitely be hard. Some days you're really busy, some days you might have a little bit of time. Um, and uh, it's definitely a little bit of work-life balance kind of situation. The way I personally dealt with this, and it takes a while to like get in the habit, but once you form the habit, it's really easy, is to simply say, no matter what, every single weekday or maybe every single day period, I'm going to open up my project and do something. It doesn't have to be crazy. Maybe I just go in there and I rename some sprites to a better naming convention or something silly. Maybe I end up spending 3 hours writing a new movement system. Um, and I don't hold myself to a time constraint, but I just say as long as I open it up every day and and just do something. And I found that just having that kind of system has kept me a little bit more on top of things. And the days where I'm not really feeling like it, I just do something really small and quick. So it's not a huge, takeaway, or if I'm really busy, but it keeps it on my mind. It keeps me thinking about it, and yeah, I've just found really a lot of success with that method.
Thank you.
Cool. So we're not going to go too deep into this just because for time constraints, but a couple of things that I made. This one was in Godot, and you can find it on itch.io if you just look up Slay the Spider. It was just made by a couple friends and me around the time I was, I think, halfway through college. So you can see me and then my two friends. Um, and basically, it was a little RPG game uh, with like animations and running around and fighting stuff. And it combined real-time movement, but when you got into combat, it would make everything stop and be turn-based. So like right here it was like turn-based. Um, of course, once we finished it and things, there's like a million little things. I'm like, oh, that could have been better. That could have been better, um, and so forth. And then, of course, the other thing I was talking about, space station animation. If you just look them up on YouTube, you can see lots of the stuff that they made or we made together at Space Station Animation. I specifically helped with the tooling and like the animation pipeline and engine stuff. So um, a lot of like the uh, behind the scenes kind of stuff. But um, anyways, so something I just wanted to say though is like I imagine since you guys all made game or like showing off your game jam things today, um, you've got a little bit of experience. Was there one specific engine everyone used?
Um, Not particularly. It's pretty much been a split between like Unity and Godot.
Okay, sweet. Those are both really good engines to start out with. I know that the three main ones I know is Unreal, Godot, and Unity. Um, and Unreal's really good, but it's a little bit intense. But uh, and I'm gonna pull you guys back up so I can kind of see by like a raise of hands, um, who felt like their game was like the best game that they could make in their life. Okay. I'm gonna count that as like half a hand. So, um, I know Brother Manley told me a little bit about how, some students would express that it's a little bit hard to get into game dev and to um know what you're doing, I guess. And I totally resonate with anyone who feels that way, where you're like, oh, I spent so much effort and time on this game, and maybe you did something cool, and I hope you're proud of it. Um, but you might be feeling like, well, this doesn't look like, World of Warcraft, or this doesn't look like some other thing that you really enjoy. Um, and that's something that I had to deal with a lot in my personal game dev journey was learning to realize that um, the stuff that I really want to make, those really deep, cool games, it takes a long time to get there. But once you learn to enjoy the process and enjoy being like learning things and stuff, that's where the real fun comes in. Um, there's a quote here. I wrote it down, and let me see if I can find it. let's see. So, um, a good quote that I love to use is, Rome wasn't built in a day. And that's kind of how we have to look at our game design and game programming journey, is that if we want to build a lot of really cool games, we don't start by setting out to build, some gigantic street with giant castles on the side or something. We start out just placing one little stone. And so these first games that we make are like little stones or little bricks that we lay on the wall. And maybe this game you just figured out how to make movement work well, or maybe this game you just figured out a little bit more of how to make AI work, and just little experiments. And as you go along, you'll remember these lessons, and you'll kind of remember the principles that you're learning, and eventually you'll turn around and you'll see pallets full of little bricks everywhere. And by taking these little bricks, you'll say, "Hey, I know how to make a procedural system to generate so and so, or do this or that." When the time comes to make a game, you'll be able to just rely on all of this backlog of knowledge and understanding to piece it together into one large building. Um, so that's just like a really good piece of advice I was given to me from a mentor a while ago. But if you ever feel like you're like, dang, I really wish, uh, you know, I wish this wasn't so hard or whatever. It's not that you're bad at it. Um, you're learning, and the reality of it is, for games, almost everyone who goes into making games, you have really good taste. You know what a good game feels like, and so some of your first things, they don't feel super fun because you've played more fun things. So you think, oh, maybe I'm bad. No, you just have good taste, and that good taste will help push you to eventually make games that you'll go, hey, this is really awesome. So, does anyone have any questions before I continue on? Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people who are wanting to kind of like indie development more professionally, like getting started with that?
Indie development or professional?
Keep life together, like doing
Oh, doing both?
professionally.
No, he means like, sorry, it might just be an audio issue because of distance. He means like professional indie development.
Yeah. One of the most important aspects of just getting far in the industry is networking and building up a like a website usually is the most ideal, where you can show off your best work, um, so that you can make connections with people you want to work with. Because like there is like the classic route of, being like a professional solo indie developer, and I've done that at different points, and it works. But I'd say one of the most important just aspects of advice I can give is like finding people who you vibe well with and want to work with, so that you can start kind of like um, indie projects together. Um, and that's just good advice for me, because it's like it's easy to talk about, like, oh yeah, I should get better at making games and stuff. But I think it's really easy to neglect um, the like more peripheral aspects. So I don't know if that answered your question super well. Sorry, that I feel like I could have gone a bunch of different ways. Was that a good answer?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, sweet. On that topic too, just really quick, if anyone here wants to be um, like work for themselves kind of indie, um, that's really cool. I do that right now. I'm doing that right now, and it's a lot of fun. It's very high risk, of course, but um, just a quick thing I throw out there is, um, do your do your due diligence everywhere you can. If this is something that you're like, hey, I want to make enough money to support a lifestyle off of, then that means that you need to focus on making games that will make you money. And we can talk about that a little bit when I show my current project. But um, whereas if you just view this as like, hey, this is a fun hobby, I like making games, I can do cool stuff, maybe do a game jam every now and then you can kind of do whatever you want, and it can be both are perfectly valid, and can be a lot of fun.
Um,
Um,
quickly
oh,
expanding on a thing you mentioned earlier, if I'm not interrupting too much, networking. One thing I've noticed is like usually at least here at BYUI, they push a lot of like go to like LinkedIn and Handshake and all those places. And I personally haven't found much presence for them. Is there somewhere you'd recommend to like go to start networking for the video game industry?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mess right now, unfortunately. So a lot of it is just like word of mouth and things like that. However, most states, let me find it real quick. Most states have a Discord for game devs.
Hmm.
So if you just like look at your home state and just type in like, uh, for me, I'm from Utah, so I'm in the Utah one, and I say Utah Game Dev Discord. You can usually find it. Um, it really varies from like Discord to Discord how high quality they are, of course. But generally, the best places I've looked is I joined the official like Discords or forums for an engine. There's usually a decent number of like job postings in there. Um, and then same with just like ones for Utah. It I kind of wish this would I kind of hope and wish this will change in the future because doing things via Discord isn't very searchable from the web. So yeah, that's something I hope that the industry improves on. But definitely get in there and definitely start making connections if you can. The official ones for like Godot or Unreal are amazing too because you can ask people questions and say like, "Hey, why isn't this working?" And there's almost always someone who's polite and helpful in there. So um, let me think. Sorry, I'm trying to think if there's like any other quick good networking things. If there's any, there's every now and then there'll be like game fairs. Stuff like that. Try and go to those if you can. Those are great places to find people. When I worked for Space Station, randomly there were a lot of game developers at a Halo event we were hosting. So um, I don't know why they were there, but sometimes just kind of game adjacent things like that could also be good networking. Um, so I saw a couple other hands earlier. Does anyone have any questions?
So you have experience working with like different sizes of like teams, I guess. Like you've worked on projects on your own, with like a group of friends and with a, studio with the animation. And I was just wondering if like there was like a specific like one of those, scenarios or environments that you like enjoyed working in more, or like how those successes between like the different sized, teams, how those successes between those kind of varied.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. And there's like not only does it like the size of the team that matters, but the communication methods of the team members matter too. Um, so I guess like um, sorry, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Um, when I was at Space Station, for example, that was the largest team I was ever a part of. And Space Station is actually 18 different companies. But there where Space Station Animation is the one that focuses on that stuff. So I mostly dealt with those people, but I would also interact with like up to 100 other people. And so that was a pretty large team. Uh, and I think large teams can work well. Um, but there's definitely a different feel. It takes a lot longer to get things done. In our case, it was me and one other programmer who were maintaining all of the animation tooling, and then like 20 to 30 like artists who were using it. And so there was a lot of pressure. And unfortunately, like the artists wouldn't understand like our programming stuff. And so they would like give us like something that they thought was really simple, and then it takes us like 3 months to finish. Um, and so that's kind of why I said like communication can be really important because as you scale up any amount of team, it becomes more important that you have systems and people in charge to help communicate, especially once different disciplines get involved. Um, my personal preference, though, I've worked completely by myself, in groups of 3 to 5, and then of course at Space Station, and they all have different pros and cons. I kind of like solo development because you get to call all the shots, which is really nice. And like in my case, sometimes when you're working with bigger teams, especially like really big ones, you know, there's a way that you think would be really good to handle something, but then you just kind of get outvoted and you're like, all right, and it's usually fine, but that's one of the advantages of being solo. The obvious disadvantage is you have to do everything yourself, and it can be a little bit intense at times because like, you know, maybe there's a task you just really don't want to do, and it's like, well, until you do it, it doesn't get done. So, um, and then like teams for 3 to 5, those can be really good, especially if you're friends with the people in there. Um, Almost every time I've worked in a team about that size, it's been a good experience because it's large enough that um, you can you know kind of share the load a bit better and stuff, but it's not so large that there's a lot of need for management. I don't remember who this is from. It might have been Jeff Bezos, but uh, what someone who succeeded was very successful said to them the best team size is if it can be fed by 2 pizzas. And so they said uh, just like the best engineering teams, the best development teams, whatever it is, are always able to be fed by 2 pizzas. And I found that to be fairly accurate in my experience. So cool. I see a question in the back.
Yeah. What is the best way, in your opinion, to learn a game engine? Is there like a really good system to learn it, like watching YouTube tutorials or like taking a course to learn it?
Yeah, so that's a really really good question. And um I guess I wish I could say there was like a super like fast and easy way, but um simply doing things in the engine has been the fastest way to learn in my experience. And so what that means in practice is I would just think like find something inside of an engine that you want to learn how to do. Um like a few years back, I wanted to make an enemy that would chase the player, but then run away when his health is low. Um, and so usually the way I would start that process is you can look up tutorials for the engine and try and find some stuff um, that is similar, and then just follow the tutorial and then see how far that gets you. And once like the tutorials aren't able to help anymore, that's when you kind of sit down and say, okay, I'm gonna try to, make this work the way I need it to. Um, as it takes some time, and I'm not gonna like sugarcoat and say like, oh, it's like super easy or anything. But as you do that and like you just keep, finding new features that or things you want to do inside the engine, um, you'll you'll be able to keep um, learning little bits and pieces, kind of like those like bricks I was talking about. Just kind of take it one step at a time, and after a while, um, you'll start to have a really good grasp of the engine, and so then you can start to put little huts together and stuff, and take multiple of those pieces and form a whole game around it. So game jams are actually excellent in that regard too, because you can just really hone in on like one singular aspect of game design or learn something new inside the engine. Um, but full disclaimer, like I'm not like a huge game jammer. I mostly just like make stuff over a weekend on my own. I don't like usually join like an official game jam. So um, yeah, but um, things like YouTube tutorials, blogs, all those things are great. Uh, One little detail though is they can only get you so far. When you're new, there's almost a tutorial for like everything you need, but eventually you'll know you're starting to get to more like the intermediate level. Um, when like you start having questions that like there's no tutorial on, and you're like, oh, and then it just kind of becomes a little bit of like, you know, figuring it out, reading source code inside engines, stuff like that. So yeah, the question in the back.
Okay, one thing about game engines, like updated, changed, like add a feature of some sort, what would it be?
Um, Sorry, that was a little, I couldn't hear that super clearly. Something about game engines?
Yeah, if you could add one thing to a game engine to either update it or give it a feature, what would that be?
Oh man. Um, oh, that's a hard one because It varies from engine to engine. Um, so I guess a quick like thing. Unity I have the least experience with. It's a perfectly good engine. I used it a little bit and then I decided I like Godot and Unreal better. But um, I think in like Godot's case, I think they just need a little bit better 3D rendering, and a little bit more modern graphical APIs. But those are coming. Almost all these things are coming. So, for like if it's like for Godot, I'm looking forward greatly to their improved visual fidelity and stuff because the core of Godot is really good, um, and I think that it could catch up to a lot of the bigger engines and be a real powerhouse in the future. And then as for Unreal, there's definitely a lot of little things, but I'm really, really excited for Unreal 6 because they're adding multi-threading support, which will fix potentially a lot of the bottlenecks that Unreal games have. So, um, I guess like the more like technical, hard to implement yourself kind of aspects I'm really looking forward to. Um, and sorry, I don't want to take too much time. So if I'm ever going over, someone can stop me. But uh, that just reminded me of another quick piece of advice, which is if you guys are making games and you notice something, like you just have to keep doing the same thing, or the engine just isn't really handling it super well, um, taking the time to learn how to write um, plugins um, to help handle those situations can be really, really invaluable, and it can save a lot. Um, for example, a Godot game I worked on a while back, I had trees planted everywhere in a level just to provide some cool visual fidelity and stuff. And um, I was like working on it, and I had to keep like manually rotating the trees so that the sprites didn't all look the same. Uh, and so I got tired of that, and I just wrote like a little button inside of Godot that I could just click, and it would just randomly rotate every object that I had set to function that way, so I could just quickly, in the editor, just go bang, and it's all done. So anytime you find like time saving things like that, it gets really good to get in the habit of making tools. Anyways, so unless there's any more questions, I'll go ahead and just show a little quick project I've been working on. This project's been in development for about 6 months. And if I'm lucky, I'll be targeting a release into probably early access on Steam at the end of this year. Um, but of course, game development is very hard to measure measure timing on and stuff. So let's see. Let's go ahead and share. Now, just so you guys know, I'm not an artist, so I actually buy assets online. These ones come from a company called Cinti. If you recognize them, they're pretty popular. Um, but they make really good low poly assets. Most game stores or most game engines have little stores like the Unity store. The Unreal has Fab. Um, and then there's just miscellaneous ones you can get assets from. So if you're not an artist like me, um, that's a really, really good way to cost effectively make your game look better. Um, so today, I'll just show you like a task I was working on today. I want to make it so that you can procedurally build towns to explore and fight zombies in, because it's going to be a game about, zombie apocalypse. Um, and so I grabbed this free plugin. I was going to build my own, but I found this one called Prefabricator, and it's really awesome. And the past couple days, I've just been kind of figuring it out. Basically, what it allows you to do is I can set up little prefabs inside of Unreal, and then at runtime randomize them to um, kind of create little rooms and stuff like that. So, like for example, I can make a prefab inside a prefab. So like this whole thing's a big prefab, and then I got like this little one right here that's like chairs, and I can like randomize what it looks like, and its positioning and stuff. And so yeah, like I said, this took me about 2 days. It's getting a lot faster now that I understand the like intricacies of the prefabricator. Um, and uh, yeah, so that's just like one little aspect that I figured I'd show off. Um, let's see. But before I knew exactly what this game was going to be, um, there was a lot of like kind of going around and back and forth. Uh, I think I'm not sure if 100% sure if I mentioned, but um, I make games professionally for money, and so uh, since I do that, I have to be really careful what I spend my time on. I ended up going with the zombies theme because zombies are really timeless and the games tend to sell well. And so my goal was to make something similar to similar in spirit to Unturned, if anyone's played that game, um, but with just a little bit more of my personal game design interests thrown in. So I had spent a while building this little mall level out and kind of just like decorating it and stuff. Um, and then most of the time went into the gameplay. And this is very early, kind of work in progress. So if you see if you see that it's like ugly, um, that's okay. It probably should be. So um, in here we've just got like little first person camera. You can punch, you can pick up, axes and weapons and stuff. And then you've got like a little inventory. Like I said, I haven't spent very much time making it look good yet because it's very important when you're making games that you just make it work and then you make it pretty. The polishing is really tempting to polish early, but it's better to polish late because um, when I worked at Space Station, we were working on a project for a whole year. It was a massive project, and it wasn't the only thing I did, but I did spend some pretty considerable amount of time on it. And it got so far to the point that I was polishing it and filling out content, and it was this little game for Fortnite we were working with. Um, and I had spent like made tons of game modes and all sorts of things inside this giant island you could explore. We were going to publish it, and then out of the blue, the CEO of the company comes in and he says, "Yeah, we're not going to do this anymore." um, and he just decided for various reasons. And so, uh, just the piece of advice I have is like focus on the gameplay, get the gameplay and the other aspects really good, and then polish later because we had spent a lot of time polishing before we had even known for sure this was happening, and it was a little bit frustrating. So, anyways, so this is like a little game. We won't focus too much on stuff, but you can just like pick up goodies. You can run around. You can fight the zombies that will be spawning, I'm sure. There's a building menu to let you build um, like fire pits and things to survive, and it's just kind of a general survival game. Um, and like I said, like it's uh, part of the reason I'm building this is because I know that it's very likely to be successful on Steam, which you can do by following blogs such as Chris Zubowski's How to Market a Game blog, or just other stuff that talks about what's likely to succeed. I don't want to spend too much time on any of these things just because I think I've already talked for quite a while. But if any of you are curious, um, if I come back and talk again at BYUI, I can cover a lot more of just decision making in game development.
That would be
So yeah,
great.
oh, sorry, what did you say?
I was just saying that would be great to have you come back in the future.
Yeah. So, like I said, this game is very incomplete at the moment, but and a lot of the 6 months previous to this were just working in the evenings. So I would come in here. The most common thing I would probably do when I was like tight on time is I would just take like half an hour out of my day to just decorate a little store and like set up some of the stuff. So like, oh look, now there's like cloth spawning inside and stuff like that. Um, figuring out the lighting. Um, Obviously there's like a lot more I can do. I'm still learning a lot about. Oh, hello, zombie. Hold on. Ow. I don't know if the audio's coming through, but it's very loud for me. Anyways, I like to focus more on gameplay systems than level design, so I'm a little bit out of my depth when it comes to level. But I guess I can show one cool little feature I added. I really didn't like how when I was doing market research, how in most zombie games, like it's really really boring. The zombies just kind of come at you, and then like you punch them and then they like die when they die they just like fall over or whatever. So I decided to make it so that when you hit zombies, there's a small chance that they'll fall over but not actually die. And from playtesting with people, okay, neither of them did at that time. It's like a 10% chance. But from playtesting with people, it was really fun because sometimes people would think they killed the zombie and they start moving on, and then suddenly get jumped by the zombie later, and just little small details like that. Let's see if I can do it this time. Oh, nope. They can also grab you, so that one just did a little grab attack on me, and it stops you from moving until you knock them off. And to help signify that that was like what was happening, I made it so if you're not looking the right direction, but a zombie grabs you, it forces you to like look at them. Um, and like I said, this is all still kind of a work in progress, but lots of little details like that to help make the game feel more lively and stand out compared to its competitors in the indie zombie game realm. Um, what'd you say?
What's the name of the game that you're working on?
Um, I don't like to name a game too early, just because a lot of times that I've made games, they've changed like a lot by the time I'm done. But I do refer to this one as the Biting Cold, because the theme is eventually going to be an eternal winter, and the zombies are like powered by the winter somehow. And so I thought just the Biting Cold was a fun, fitting name for that. But as you can see, the winter element hasn't been worked on yet. That's still coming.
Where did you say we should look if we wanted to find out what games would sell?
Yes, so there is a great blog called Market a Game, howtomarketagame.com. This guy is super respected in the industry, and he knows a lot. His blogs are really good that just help you figure out if you want to make a game that will make money. Um, he kind of covers it. Uh, a couple of years ago, he put out a really good blog article. I don't remember what it's called, but if you just kind of look through here, you'll eventually find it. He talks about the different um, the different genres and how they do on Steam versus how many of them come out. Um, does anyone want to take a guess at how many games came out on Steam last year?
10,000?
At least a million?
It was about in the realm of like 30,000 games, uh, which is pretty crazy. And he talks about how he has measurements to figure out how well a game does. And I think only around like 3,000 of those games likely sold more than $1,000 worth of product. And so it's a little bit of a competitive realm right now. But the reason he brings that up and talks about that stuff is because he says, um, you know, success isn't random. It's not just you have a 1 in 10 chance to make a profitable game, but it's rather um, when you think about designing games, you should also be looking into the aspects of, hey, how will, how big is the audience that I'm making this for? And if you're an indie hobbyist, it doesn't matter. You can just say, okay, well, it's just for me. But if you're looking and saying, I want to make a platformer, I think like 7,000 of those games were platformers, and only 13 of them made enough money to be over 1,000. And so, you might look at the platformer genre and say, hey, this is maybe a little bit oversaturated. Um, and the level of work you have to put in to make it a well-selling one is really high. Um, but like in my case, I looked around a lot and I saw zombie games almost always sell well. And there's a lot of high quality AAA zombie games out there, but there's not very many uh, high quality indie zombie games. And so I kind of, fit into that little niche right there. Um, but it's a great resource. So, anyways, I don't want to take too much more time. Um, I feel like sorry, I tend to go on little tangents and things, but I'm very passionate about this. If any of you have like more questions for me, you can reach me at stringhamethan@gmail.com, and I'm happy to respond there. You can also send me a friend request on LinkedIn if you want. Um, but um, yeah, it's been awesome to see all of you. Uh, Hopefully in the future I'll be able to come by and give a more formal talk on some of the things, possibly even in person. But
Plan on
does anyone have any? Oh, sorry.
We'll plan on it.
Sweet. Does anyone have any just like final questions or anything they're curious about? Yeah, on the left of me, left side for me.
I know you mentioned that Unreal Engine is that, would you say it's a high, in-demand skill set to have in the industry?
Yeah, of all the engines, if you want to be professional and work in like a big company, Unreal is definitely the one I would learn right now. Um, I don't know if it'll stay that way forever, of course, but right now, like the demand for Unreal programmers is huge. Unity is in second place in that regard. There's a decent amount of Unity jobs still, but I think it's shrinking. And then uh, Godot is good for hobbyist stuff, and it's a really good engine. I really like it, but it hasn't quite reached the point where it's been adopted by the larger industry. But I think one day it will be. So um, when it comes to learning Unreal, a piece of advice I would give is Unreal is huge. It has so many tools, so many things, and all of those tools are designed for like a specialist to spend his whole career in. So if you start in Unreal, don't get super overwhelmed. It's normal. It's a little bit of like a giant, cat construction machine compared to like the shovel of something smaller like Godot. So it's a little bit unwieldy to use, but um, learning just like one area of Unreal really well, it makes you super employable. Um, so in my case, I know a lot about the underlying code of Unreal, so I can write plugins and other features to help companies that need something custom. But another example could be learning technical art so that you can write shaders inside of Unreal and stuff like that. So awesome. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. With like publishing, at least like for me, I'm kind of maybe overly paranoid about like, internet privacy and like, because like, internet can be, not a nice place and all that. And kind of with publishing games, I guess having a good internet presence might be good for like getting eyes on your game.
Hmm.
So with your like experience, like do you think like there are any like concerns with that, or do you like do you publish your games under like an alias of sorts? And I guess like what other advice would or like things you would want to like avoid with publishing games?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, Being just like completely straight up, uh, I remember talking to a musician who was like decently famous, and uh, I feel bad I don't remember his name, but he was more like for like movies and things, less like a front-facing musician. But he talked about how he had switched from music to game dev, and he said it was like culture shock because in music, you talk about your stuff and you go out and you be public and you show things and people are always like, "Oh, I can't wait for like more from my favorite musician and things." And he said in games, he would publish like a game and stuff and then just suddenly like get his inbox filled with like hate mail. Um, and just like people losing their minds over like a singular bug. So you're totally justified in your fear about that. I don't know exactly why, but game game I guess like gamers, uh, and just people who engage in that tend to be a little bit more negative biased than other entertainment industries. And so being wise about the way you present yourself is important. You can definitely use an alias if you feel comfortable. That's what the creator of Balatro did. And uh, I think that can work really well if you just want to make sure there's no chance of it coming into your personal life. Um, the most like practical advice I can give in that regard is just be ready for it. Even if you make like the perfect game, someone's gonna find a reason to criticize you. Um, and don't let it get to you. You just gotta just kind of have some thick skin there. But always be looking for uh the reason. So if someone sends you an email that's like, "I hate everything about this. You're a terrible person," blah blah blah, and then you don't know how to make a game because X bug, then you can stop there and be like, oh, that's why he's mad. He's mad because currently I don't know, the some bug in a level is breaking the game. And so you'll be able to go and fix that, but just kind of learning how to filter out some of the negativity. Another piece of advice that I learned that's been super helpful is whenever you do engage with the community, uh, little things to remind them that you're a human too are great. Like talking about like, hey, I'm not gonna be putting out an update this weekend because I'm going on vacation with my family. Just whatever your personally okay with sharing. That just kind of has helped form communities better when they don't feel like you're some like detached, like inhuman thing that's like pumping out updates for them. But when they get to see just a little bit into, oh, like some devs they like to put like little cats at the bottom of their update notes, like pictures of their cats, and people go like, "Oh, that's so cute." And I've helped, I've noticed that helps keep a little bit of like the gamer rage down. So, um, anyways, was that a good answer to your question or?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, like I said, I that's another aspect that I wish like I could say like, "Oh yeah, they'll never be a problem," but unfortunately, there's a little bit of a problem right now with people just being a little bit rude to game developers, and I think it's mostly a communication issue that will get resolved in time as like both sides figure out how to communicate better. But um, yeah, it just is what it is. Cool. Any final questions before we call it? Yeah, I see one hand.
What was your degree? What certificates helped you out when you were going through BYUI and graduating?
Yeah, I was a uh, software engineer with an emphasis on leadership. And at one point, I had a minor in business. I decided to drop the minor in business because it would help me graduate faster. But um, I think as long as you're getting some level of programming in your career, that works great. Um, if you were like more on the art side, I would say it wouldn't be bad to be like an art major, but then have like a software, some sort of software thing on the side. And then it's like less about like the like licenses and certificates and things for game dev since it's a new industry, and more about just make sure you have a good understanding of object-oriented programming. So like C++, C Sharp, Python to a degree. Just knowing those really well tend to transfer the best to game engines. And then if you find someone who's willing to teach you shaders, absolutely take them up on that offer. Shaders are a little bit annoying to find mentorship in. Uh, there's just not that many people teaching it, so either teaching yourself or uh, finding someone to teach is another thing I would really recommend. But yeah, I see one hand.
Yeah, so as sort of part of our curriculum here, we're kind of expected to take at least one internship before we graduate. And one concern I've had is I don't have the feeling that video games have a lot of internship positions. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but if that is the case, like what sort of jobs would you look for that you think might benefit learning some things that would be good for that?
That's a good one. Yeah, you're kind of right that there are occasionally internships in the video game industry, but by and large they tend to be in QA, which I don't believe, unless it's like some QA that lets you do a little bit of programming. I don't think that would cover what you would need for software engineering. Um, and so generally, I would look for jobs that are back end rather than front end. Um, so just jobs that are, maybe like you're building more of the back end of a website or working on the application and helping build out some of the features. Um, it's definitely not one to one, but the closer you are to that side of development, generally, the better it will be for your programming. Unless if you want to focus on things such as like UI and layout, then um, or like user experience, then front end could also be good. But for like a software engineer, I would definitely recommend more like back-endy kind of jobs. So
Well, Ethan, really appreciate your time. We better call it.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. Like I said, I'll be super excited to come back and talk sometime. Um, but hopefully that was informational and yeah, feel free to shoot me an email if you have any more questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.